Federico. Yes, can hear.
Hello, guys. How are you? Welcome to the community call of Kleros number. I don't know, but lots
I
of
think it's
community call.
the first
What?
one.
The f-
The fourth, yeah,
the
of the
fourth
year.
of 2025. I mean, but I was thinking of since the beginning of the project. I don't know. We are uploading all of the community calls since the beginning. If you want to see our YouTube channel, there is a community calls playlist, and there is like hundreds, not hundreds, but maybe a few hundred community calls. We have been doing this since I think 2019, so that's a lot. And this week we have like lots of things. I don't know where to start actually. Should I start by? I will start by curation. I think. Well, um, as you have seen, maybe there is the founder and CEO at Coinbase, Brian Armstrong, who made this post saying that we need to change the way in which we address the problem of listing tokens because the amount of crypto assets that are being created is growing, I would say, exponentially because, well, uh, people are doing projects, some people are doing meme coins, some presidents are also doing meme coins. Um, and these two are, the real world assets. So we are going to a world of tons and tons of crypto assets. And this creates a problem of, which of these are going to be acceptable to offer to the public, which are not, and how do you address this problem? So how do you decide which are okay to offer and which are not? So in the very early days of Kleros, when we launched what we know now as Kleros 1.0, which happened in 2019, it was launched with another app called Kleros Tokens. Kleros Tokens was a curated list where people could submit assets to be listed into this list. And then there is this process of asset challenging by the community. I mean, anyone can challenge an asset if they think that the asset doesn't comply with the rules to be listed. So, well, and then there is all of this. If there is a dispute, both parties put a deposit there, and there is a jury of Kleros people who are going to make a decision whether the asset complies or not. So this was launched at the same time as Kleros 1.0. And at that moment, this process was used by an exchange called Edfinex. This was a centralized exchange that was like the ERC20 tokens exchange of another exchange called Bitfinex. Well, it was one of the branches of Bitfinex, specializing in these assets, and they needed a process to verify the submissions that they got to decide which to list or not. And they started to get like lots of tokens, lots of submissions, and we discussed with them to build this community-driven process where anyone would be able to submit a token, and then the process worked as I explained with the challenge, etc. And what this was, the service that they got from this was that they would like receive, for example, I don't know, 100 submissions per week or per day. I don't remember what was the exact number. And the Kleros process would like filter out, let's say, like 90, 95 tokens, and they will only have to study more carefully, like 5 or 10 per week. So this was basically a vetting process that they could use, and it was helping them do the decision making more quicker. And this is basically what could be implemented in the case of Coinbase, right? A community-driven process where crowdsourced people can make submissions and also then challenge tokens that they think they don't comply with the conditions. So this is one thing. And then, well, in 2020, 2020, I think it was, or 2021, we made another a fellowship together with the Maker Foundation. In that moment, the Maker Foundation, that, as you know, they are the company that issues the DAI cryptocurrency and the stablecoin. And when it started, the DAI was collateralized by Ether. But the goal that they had at that moment was to start having more and more assets as collateral. And well, that's what was called the multi-collateral DAI. And one of the things that they wanted to start implementing was the use of real world assets. I mean, what if you can tokenize, like a house, a car, stocks, bonds, Picasso, like high quality ancient music instruments, whatever, and then use that token as a collateral for the DAI. So that was like the vision at that moment. But then you had a bunch of problems if you want to do this. First, I mean, how do you know that that token that has, a house in La Matanza, province of Buenos Aires, Argentina, written in it, actually represents a house that exists? And how do you know that it's not like just a scam, a thing, token that has nothing beneath? And so first you need to verify that this token represents an existing asset. And second, you need to verify that this asset and this token actually represents a property right over that asset, and that property right is enforceable in the way that is required by the collateral to work. So let's say I have my house in La Matanza and I make a token out of this house, and then I put this token as a collateral to get a loan. And so I get a loan, and then let's say I default on that loan, and the lender should be able to, okay, they have my token there, and they should be able to claim the asset, the underlying asset, and like execute that collateral. So they go to Argentinian court, and then they ask the judge to evict the family who lives in that house and receive the money. I mean, they don't know actually. I mean, how do you know that the court is actually going to enforce that eviction just because you have a token? So lots of questions about what the token actually represents in terms of legal rights over assets, besides of the factual question of whether the asset exists in the same place, in the first place. So imagine using Kleros curated list where people can submit the asset they want to tokenize, and then this goes through a process where the people, I mean, challengers, verify whether the asset complies with the rules to be tokenized, and if it's legally compliant, if the asset exists, if the lots of different rules, and then after this gets into the verified asset list, then it becomes a token that can be traded in different markets. So this process is extremely important to, in some way, like a mirror what you have in the on-chain world, where you have tokens claiming representing real world assets, and the underlying physical real world where these things actually exist. Okay, so this is super complex because think that you have lots of different asset classes, as I said, stocks, bonds, houses, whatever, and then different jurisdictions. So maybe the house, a token can be representing the house, legally enforceable in Paraguay, but maybe in Argentina, no. So you have like lots of combinations which start running into the millions or billions, So that process of verifying what assets are acceptable as tokens to be traded. So this is the work we did together with the Maker Foundation in 2020, 2021. It was called the Kleros and Maker Fellowship, and we ended up with we did a quite long process of selecting the researcher who would do this research. It was done by Marvin Colby, a security lawyer from Canada, and the video of the research results is online. I mean, you can watch it, and it's a cool piece of research. But then we were still a bit early in the way that this could be actually used. But now, these ideas are starting to become more part of the everyday talk, and this is something that I see more likely to happen at the moment. So this positions Kleros as a very good method to verify crypto assets and determine whether individual categories of assets and individual assets are acceptable as tokens to be traded. Well, hopefully you I didn't put you to sleep. And I mean, we can also mention a bit how this interacts with Kleros Scout, but I don't want to do all the talking myself. I know. Do you want to, Jean, you explain Kleros Scout so I don't do all the talking?
Yes, we have a couple of lists related to Web3 security. We tag tokens, contracts, and the combination of domains and contracts on these different lists. And they are being used, for example, by block explorers like Etherscan, and basically all block explorers based on Etherscan. For example, in the case of Base, the Base scan block explorer uses our tags, and it allows us to give curated information. So people, when they're interacting with their wallet or they're checking the transactions that they did, they can see some curated data about what that contract token is about. And why is this useful? Basically, it's very easy to create tokens on any blockchain and give them the same name as the original token. And the users, on some wallets, it's very hard to tell when you are being sent the correct token or not, or maybe you have a scam token that you received. Well, so someone needs to create the data. Some services do this themselves, but as Federico mentioned, there's thousands, millions of tokens out there, and the growth is, I don't know, probably exponential at this point. And so it's very hard to create everything. So with Kleros Scout, we basically allow anyone to help with curation, and there's also incentives in PMK for people that do so. And I don't have the exact numbers of the tags that we have, the contracts that we have tagged right now, but last time we discussed this with Lamian, he mentioned that we are probably the largest contributor of data, of curated data, of community curated data to Etherscan. So we can say that it's a pretty big registry. And also we have an extension for MetaMask. There is called Kleros Scout too. MetaMask has these extensions called the MetaMask Snap, and you can install it on your MetaMask wallet, and you can see information from these lists when you're making transactions.
Yeah, it's not one of the most famous Kleros use cases, but it's one of those that, I mean, has a lot of potential, because this in the end is like a private certification system. You can submit tokens or addresses or other items to be certified with like an approved seal. And this is being used also, like, for example, Open Vino to certify organic wine. But yeah, so the the tweet by Brian Armstrong was a wake up call in some way that the time for this type of use case is coming. We were already discussing this and preparing this curation system, as I said, 5 years ago, and some of the cool cases of Kleros lore come from this application. One very famous case was Buyer Chain, a project that was a scam project done by in China, and they claimed to have like well a CTO that was a member of some Oxford group. And when the jurors, verified the information, they looked and they discovered this guy, Scott Bingley was the name of the guy. Someone called Oxford to speak to Scott Bingley, who was part of the blockchain research laboratories. And the guy who answers the phone at Oxford, he answered, I mean, we have no idea what you're talking about. There is no Scott Bingley here, and there is no blockchain research laboratories. So this was obviously, it was a scam. And the guy, the photo of this guy, Scott Bingley, was just a stock photo. And and the interesting thing is that, so the token got rejected from the list. And 1 week later, or no, it was not 1 week, but I think 6 months later, we read like on CoinDesk or some other like crypto media that the Chinese police has done a number of arrests of like people who were accused of doing a Ponzi, and it was buyer chain. So think how many people got scammed into buying that Ponzi token because it took a lot of time for the police to catch up with this, and how important it is to have some faster method to verify tokens like Kleros. So it was cool to see that this is actually coming into reality. So one of the big news of the week is about the curation and token certification. And the other big thing is about, that AI and Kleros. So let me give you some history here. First time I thought about this type of topics, it was even before Kleros, when I was at Singularity University. It's an innovation center from Silicon Valley. It's like a kind of a university. It's not a university, but it's like an educational facility where they get people that innovate in different industries from different parts of the world. And I spent there in 2016, like 5 months, taking like classes in AI and robotics, VR and stuff like that. And I was starting to think about what later became decentralized justice and Kleros. And I had like a late night conversation with who was my AI professor, called Neil Jacobstein, extremely smart guy who has been doing AI for ages. And another one who is is the director of the program, is Ray Kurzweil. As you know, well, Ray Kurzweil is maybe he was director of engineering at Google by then. One of the, I don't want to say inventors because he was not, but one of the big names in AI. And one of the questions we had in that conversation was, we've all seen like Terminator or Matrix or all the science fiction movies, and how do you like prevent some AI that is misbehaving from harming people? I mean, how do you kill the process in a context where like killing the process can harm other like completely legitimate activities? So, well, you would need maybe some kind of trial on that AI. So you put it on trial, and people, I mean, the jury can decide whether this AI is actually misbehaving, and then if the agreement is that it is, so the process is basically killed. So it was a 2016 a really like science fiction thing. And back in that day also, I did an interview with Max Kaiser, who was the host of a TV show called Kaiser Report. And he interviewed me about these ideas of decentralized juries. And one of the things I said in that interview is that, look, imagine you can have like a trial, a dispute between one avatar, I mean, my avatar and your avatar in, I didn't call it metaverse. I called it, because it was not, people didn't use that, but I called it into this VR world. And then you can go send this dispute to a panel of jurors, where some of them might be humans and others might be AIs. So that was something I said, I think it was 2016 also. Then Kleros starts. So Kleros in the first versions was meant to be purely human. But since the very early days, we also had the idea of interacting with AIs in different ways. The first time we started to think about this in the context of Kleros was when we did the Dodges on Trial experiment, when it was a curation experiment where people could send like an image of a dog, and then others would challenge it if the dog, so an image of the Doge meme, and the goal, there was a bounty for anyone who could send a cat through this registry and have it accepted as if it was a Doge. And in that context, one of the questions we asked, people tried different things, putting the dog, the Doge or the image in different ways, putting upside down, putting it, hiding it, lots of different things. And one of the studies I did back then on that information was, okay, you have image recognition software and AI, and these can detect a big number of attempts to, it can recognize dodges with some percentage of accuracy, but it's not perfect. And in some situations, there is like some room for interpretation on whether this is a Doge or not. There was a famous case of a guy who sends an image, and it's like a dog or cat seen but from behind. And then you could say it's Doge, but you could also say it's a cat. And that was a matter of interpretation. So it was not something that the AI could solve in a very easy way, because it was a matter of how people understood that to be. And some people were arguing, look, this it was on the snow, so these footprints are like from a cat. No, this is from a dog. It was like a trial with arguments from both sides. So, and in that moment, we started having this theory about like the dispute resolution landscape, or the way in which dispute resolution is going to be practiced in the future is going to be divided in maybe 3 main segments. For more like straightforward, like objective claims, disputes, then you can like just do it in a fully automated way, for parking tickets, stuff like that, where you don't have much interpretation and much complexity, and this is a low value. You can probably just have like a bot decide that, like an algorithm can do it. But for other a bit more complex cases, for example, like when you need some interpretation, you need some an understanding of the context in which an agreement was made, or you need something that machines cannot assess very well. That was where jurors of human jurors are going to be better than algorithms. And then for even more complex disputes involving higher value situations, where you have multiple parties, where you have like moral considerations to consider, where you have like situations where you need like more complex legal reasoning. This is probably going to be still done in a more traditional way. So this is how we started envisioning the development of the dispute resolution landscape since 2019, when we published that first post. And then came the generative models, ChatGPT and all that. And people started to become more concerned about like bias affecting these models, especially in a context where you have people who want to use AI to make decisions in cases. Like, for example, you want to use an AI, not only cases in dispute resolution, but cases like involving granting or not a loan to someone, or parole decisions, or situations where the fact that these models can have biases could like affect very badly the rights of people. Let me just give you one example. There was this experiment done in Durham County in the UK, where they started using a model to assess the likelihood that detainee would, or someone who could get parole, the likelihood that this person would reoffend. And they used that information, that percentage of likelihood, to classify people into like high, middle, and low risk. And then, if you were high risk, you stayed arrested, and if you were like low risk, they would release you. The thing is that they made this model with, I think it was like 30 something variables, and at some point they started having like complaints that people coming from like poor neighborhoods tended to be classified as higher risk than the others, even when the rest of the things were equal. And what they found is that actually the model was not well built, and it was actually punishing unfairly people from poor neighborhoods. And this is why it's very important to have like a human panel to review decisions made by AIs in case someone wants to appeal. So what we think is going to happen in the future is that Kleros is going to be part of a more complex process that is going to start probably with some AI decision done, and then that decision can be done by just one algorithm, or it could be done by some AI agents for a first decision. And then if some party believes that, some unfair decision was made, they can appeal to like another panel, which can be made by humans. And this is why we have proof of humanity. We can also have SBTs and stuff like that. So this is how we imagine this to happen. So AI and then humans in Kleros, and then this could go outside of Kleros for extremely high complexity situations that are better suited for more traditional dispute resolution systems. That could be Kleros could be just in the middle between the AI decision and the traditional court system, if you want. So the AI agents are extremely good, I think, for solving cases that are like low value, and also cases where you need a decision to be done quickly. For example, imagine having AI agents decide whether some post in some social media network complies or doesn't comply with the rules of the network or of the community. So this is where you need like a fast way to make the decision. Or this piece of content, is it spam or is it not spam? You could have like agents doing that decision almost in real time, and then it could be appealed to like a human panel. And you could also have, imagine combinations between humans and agents into a same panel. This is something that we are just like starting to explore, but I imagine like hybrid models to be quite useful. But well, I mean, we're just in the very early stages of this. So I will let maybe William comment a bit on this because he's researching this quite thoroughly.
Yeah, I agree with all you said. Like, we could imagine, for a long time I've thought of potential jurors being kind of like centaurs, where like maybe a human being that's selected as a juror uses an AI tool to help them sort of flesh out aspects of their reasoning. Um, like certainly small scale cases that need to be resolved quickly could be done purely by AIs, which appeals to centaurs or fully human jurors. From the court design perspective, it isn't really hard to. There's not much you need to change in the Kleros court to make this compatible with AI's agents being jurors. Like typically, if you have a court that's sort of like that it lends itself to that, you might have smaller payments or shorter resolution times, shorter periods. But there's nothing preventing someone from using an AI agent as like a juror in a more and like one of the courts is calibrated for human beings. The only thing is that AI agent may not be competitive unless there's also some human being putting in effort. But is
I mean, nobody knows if you're a fridge, right?
Yeah, yeah, of course. It's just like is the AI providing as good dispute resolution as a human being, and at some point, like if the AI is providing better dispute resolution than the human being, like maybe that's the type of case that can be given entirely to AIs. And only like have human beings really like giving input on like the weird edge cases when like the AI breaks down in some way, you appeal. But as we see people that have AIs that are developed for these kinds of cases, then it's not very hard to just like shorten the period times in some court and make it more AI friendly relative to humans, and sort of see where people go with that.
So nobody knows how this should work because nobody has ever done this before. But you know what I have been studying a bit as like a way to think, I mean, as a metaphor of a hybrid system with AIs and humans. When people think about the jury system, they all first thing that comes to mind is like U.S. Court system where you have 12 jurors and everything we see on the movies, 12 Angry Man and that. But there are lots of other mechanism designs for jurors and for juries. And one of the designs I have been researching a lot lately because I think we can learn from it is one where you have a combination of lay people and professional judges. There are different ways to build this, but what I was thinking is that imagine you have William, listen to this. I don't know what you're thinking. I have never asked you this, so this is a brainstorming in real time. You have the AIs need to predict what the professional jurors or SBT, in our case SBT qualified expert, would determine in the case. What is your reaction to that?
Yeah, I mean, that sounds like a natural problem. I mean, if I was going to create an AI to try to do some task that human beings are currently doing, including ruling on Kleros cases, I would give them a bunch of training data of past Kleros cases and ask them to try to predict future human being rulings on Kleros cases. And at some point, if your AIs are good enough at predicting what the human beings are going to do, you can sort of like give it to the AI first and not to the human being, and only appeal to the human being if you need to. So your idea is to have like to ask, on a given case, to have both the human beings and the AIs rule and have the AIs predict what the human beings are going to do?
I mean, I think we could experiment on this. You could have in the same round AIs and humans, human experts, maybe, and then try to ask the AI, okay, what are the humans going to decide? Or you can have the first round only AIs, but then there's going to be an appeal to SBT verified experts. And if there is no appeal because parties see that the decision makes sense to them and they don't feel that it's worth appealing, fine, okay, everyone is happy. Kleros made a goal. Resolve the case, all good. If there is an appeal, then you go to the humans, and then the bot that got it wrong, loses money basically. So I think both ways can work, either in the same round or as appeal for a further, round. But I'm just thinking brainstorming in real time, I would say.
Yeah, like the having both AIs and human beings rule in the same round feels like it'd be useful if they're giving complementary kinds of reasoning, if there are complementary strengths that the two groups have. With the lay and the professional judges, I can imagine an argument for a system like that is that the judges have all kinds of experience. They're like know a lot about the legal system. But maybe they're seen as elitist, and a lot of people have sort of more social acceptability of you've been tried by your peers, whatever. So if you're convicted by both, then that's like really damning. But if they have they add different things to the dispute resolution, and if we have some reason to believe that the AIs have sort of like complementary strengths to the humans, where they're like adding a different kind of reasoning, and there's if they come to agreement, like sort of like with different research on SPTs, that if you have agreement on a resolution across different kinds of groups, that gives you sort of more weight that it's like broadly acceptable. If you can make a similar argument for the AIs, that would be a reason to use a system like that.
So there you go. Guys, we don't have the answer, but we do have some ideas of how this could work. Let me just mention that there are, if you are interested into all of this, you can research, you can do a PhD in Oxford, funded by the University of Oxford, and Kleros. This is a doctorate in computer science, where you can study with Paul Goldberg, who is a very big expert in algorithmic game theory and AI, these type of topics. If I were to do a PhD or a doctorate in computer science, and I wanted to do it for free and at a nice place like Oxford, I would definitely apply to this. And also this could have like a very, very big impact in the future of dispute resolution for sure. And second, we are also engaging with people from King's College London. We're going to do a conference in April 24 at King's College, and we are doing this with the Department of AI from King's. And as you know, London is a bit of one of the capital cities of the world in AI, because that's where DeepMind was founded. And hopefully we can invite some guys from DeepMind to discuss these topics. I was the other day, incidentally. So do read the book by Mustafa Suleyman, The Coming Wave, if you're interested in these topics. And the other day I was watching a video of the guy who is the CEO of Google, DeepMind. He's a Nobel Prize winner, he's the CEO. I think he won the Nobel Prize for machine learning and biology research. So two very interesting research avenues if you want to get into these topics, which is the future of law for sure, and also of governance, I would say, in general. I don't know if you want to add something about this, William.
No, not particularly. Lots of exciting research opportunities. I'm excited for the conference we're hosting at King's College, but I think you covered things well.
Cool. We will release the exact speakers lineup a few maybe weeks, and we're going to have like very, very heavy hitters. I know Glenn Wild, for example, Nathan Schneider. Lots of the people with whom we interacted over time, discussing these types of topics, crypto economics in the context of dispute resolution or governance, the limitations of crypto economics. Vitalik and William and Nathan were engaged in that debate a few years ago, and then we're going to have a bunch of peer prediction panels and researchers, another one about proof of personhood. Well, we will let you know a bit more about all this. So for people who were curious about whether Kleros has research about AI, well, you can see that we have put a lot of thought into this, and we are just getting started. Definitely some of the courses, especially, as I said, those involving like more like short resolution times and small value claims, are going to be, I think, the first round probably resolved by some AI agent. Think e-commerce, think content moderation, think maybe esports, gaming, where you need like the decision made quite instantly, because that's what the users expect. And this is why companies like Meta, they have like a big part of their process of content moderation, for example, automated, and e-commerce platforms also. Okay. Let's stop here about the AI thing. Let's give some other updates, maybe Marcos, about business development.
Hey, how are you? So yes, we have some updates from the BD team. Well, as you know, we announced the integration with Smart Invoice. This was, I think, 1 or 2 weeks ago, but we're still talking with them because the idea is to go with a proposal to non-style. But for this, we need to know better if the best integration is a smart contract integration or a recognition of jurisdiction integration. The thing with the smart contract is that we are launching the V2, so there are a few details that we will have to manage during the next weeks. Then, well, as we mentioned last week, we're talking with this company from Argentina. We still didn't, or neither we still didn't announce this, so we cannot mention the name of the company. But this company, what it's going to do is sell the service of Kleros Enterprise in some territories as South America, Mexico, and other stuff, and for some specific industries. Again, this is already signed and it's going to be announced most probably in the next weeks. Then,
yeah, it's worth, just one thing about that. It's worth mentioning. So, if you want to understand a bit more about this, do watch the talk I gave about the layer 2 for dApps, where I explained how Kleros is going to be an ecosystem of the core protocol, and then on top of the protocol, lots of companies providing services of dispute resolution to different verticals. So e-commerce, another one can do, travel, another can do fintech and insurance. So the idea is to evaluate with this company, which is a very big company, how to productize the offering of Kleros to e-commerce companies, or to airlines, or to insurance companies. Because if you are like an airline and you want to use Kleros for solving disputes with your passengers, it's not easy for you to just, buy cryptocurrency, and stake it. And so you need like an intermediary company that can do the heavy lifting for you and handling all of the process of loading the dispute, receiving the dispute, sometimes interacting with your customer. So all of that business development work, that is, in the end, if this works correctly, it would increase the amount of cases that Kleros receives, like by orders of magnitude. Because imagine an airline sending, I don't know, I don't want to say all, sending 5% of the dispute they have to Kleros would, we're speaking of, I know, thousands of cases. So yeah, you can continue, Marcos.
Yep. Well, then we have a call on Monday with another province from Argentina. As we are working with Mendoza for the moment, we have a few pilot cases, and I don't remember how to say this name in English, the Convenio Marco, but it's kind of a document that was signed between the justice power of Mendoza with Kleros. well, they wanted to replicate this. They want to do something similar. So well, we will keep having a few more calls, and most probably some, if everything is going good, a new pilot case with them. And then we have Fortunato, who was focusing this week in token filtering for centralized exchanges. That is what Federico mentioned at the beginning of this call. So yes, well, and so I forgot to mention that Alex was helping me with the communication with the Smart Invoice team. So yeah, we will all doing some different things this week. That's the most important thing from the BD team this week.
Cool. Thank you, Marcos. Yeah, maybe mute. Okay. Jean, do you have anything from your side?
No, I'm just very excited about the AI agent court. I hope we can progress with that. I don't know if you have seen this, someone made an AI agent lawyer that we can ask him legal advice. Of course, it's not binding, but
Look,
it should.
when we do the work with Lemon, when we load the cases to Kleros, we do provide some assistance to the user of the platform, and assistance is done by using ChatGPT. But Marcos is the person who is doing the interface, so it's a kind of a Markov bot. But in the end, that ChatGPT process is improving the customer claim, and so it's already an AI lawyer, even if it's not like market like that. But yeah, we are already one step ahead. Jim. Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, and one thing. Sorry, you can go, Marcos.
No, so I was going to mention something funny that yesterday, when having a call with these people from Interagent Tokens, they mentioned us that we should we should have a court for AI agents. And yes, my answer was we are working on that. But it's funny that all people is asking about
I said that in 2016. I know. Yeah.
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 And one thing that I think we are already like almost 15 minutes of call, but one thing that I would like to hear from William, maybe next call, is if you think it makes sense to create Sobol tokens for AI agents. I think it will be pretty ironic, right? But, because one of the questions that people ask is, okay, if there will be models evaluating cases, then there should be diversity on these models and the prompts, so they do not so people do not run the same model that might be faulty, right? So this will be interesting.
I'm also curious about that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, something to research perhaps, but like if the different AI agents are meaningfully different in ways where if they agree, it sort of says something about like diverse points of view agreeing on an outcome. That's valuable information for the protocol to know. So yeah, it could make sense to give them sub-bound tokens.
I mean, but then they are like humans, right? Because they can disagree and they can. What is the difference with like humans?
Well, I mean, like in what sense? I mean, if you're capable of providing the same kinds of rules as human beings, then you are in a way sort of equivalent to the protocol's view as a human juror. I mean, there are all kinds of important questions about simple resistance. Just because you have sort of a family of AI agents that have similar models and they have the XBT for that kind of model. There's still something to be said for having distinct human beings so that that okay, this is a real different person. They're not somehow a copy. Yeah, I mean, these are interrelated questions.
I mean, in my view, and this is like a philosophical already debate, so we might not have the answer, but one of the main things is so typically bots would feel, I think, more comfortable with the pure Kleros decision-making system without soulbound tokens, just economic incentives. They have a utility function. They've optimized the economic profit, and it's fine, right? They are bots. They don't have feelings, so they don't care if guys from his own country, or his own community made a decision. If the decision is the right one, they don't need anything else, right? That is the way I would see this if I was a purely rational bot trying to optimize an outcome. But people do have ideas about how they believe a dispute resolution process should work, even if the process would be less efficient because you start inserting SBTs and you only want people from your community and stuff like that. Maybe it's less efficient in the sense of how it would be done by a bot. But I mean, who am I to judge the preferences of people who want their dispute resolved, right? I mean, you take that as people want their product to be, and then you try to satisfy for that. And then this gets us into questions about, and that's I had this conversation in Twitter with someone about, William, the ultimatum game, okay, why a bot does take a $1 offer, but human would not take a $1 offer, right?
Yeah. I mean, bots and humans certainly have different behavior in these kinds of sort of behavioral economics questions around, what is, like how do human beings deviate from rationality, and like how does that impact the game? On the sort of broader points you were making, ultimately, most of the people that are dealing with the consequences of dispute resolution, Kleros otherwise, are human beings. At the end of the day, the ruling has some consequence for human beings. So you want social acceptability for the human users at the end, and maybe bots would be satisfied with more economically rational actors, but they're not the ones that are unhappy. They're not the clients at the end of the day. But also like this,
for now.
Yeah, for now. But also a lot of our research on soulbound tokens and proof of personhood and sort of how those mechanisms can be built into the court selection and the juror selection process has taken the point of view that they should be complementary to the security of the existing system. So if you read our blog post from a few months ago about SBTs and juror selection, if you look at some of my talks on this, and if you read the upcoming blog post that we're going to release imminently, the graphic designer is retouching the images now. Like a lot of the idea is that it shouldn't be like an if or model of attack resistance where it's okay, instead of using token weighting and having token sort of resistance to attacks where you have to buy a bunch of tokens to attack the court, we're going to use this other mechanism that has a completely different attack model. The idea that we've been exploring is that ideally your juror selection should have sort of both defenses. So in order to break juror selection, you should have to both break the SBT thing and the token thing. Breaking one isn't enough to like really hijack the court. So from that kind of point of view, where you're trying to defend the court against various kinds of attackers, it could still make sense to give bots SBTs if it adds to the attack resistance.
There you go, guys. So that is just for you to have a glimpse of the kind of issues that we deal with every day at Kleros, involving, attack resistance in crypto economics, involving, of course, legal elements about whether the systems are legal or not, involving, moral philosophy questions about what people consider or not fair, and also behavioral economics questions about how people are different from bots. And but that is why we have such a cross-disciplinary team to build this, because it's you cannot build this just by being a person who only has one particular expertise, and because you need this to be not just secure, but you also need this to be seen as secure, but by people, and seen as fair, and on top of that, seen as legal. So we are trying to align all of these things for Kleros to work. Okay, this is already a extremely long call. thank you all for coming, and see you for the Spanish speakers, or if you're not Spanish speaker but you still want to come, it's permissionless, on Monday at 9 p.m. UTC, and English speakers next Wednesday at 6 p.m. UTC. Thank you, guys. See you.
Bye bye. See you next week.
Bye, everybody.